Depression has become the silent epidemic of our age. The World Health Organization calls it the leading cause of disability worldwide, more than cancer, heart disease, or diabetes. And here's the shocking part. Research from the CDC shows that 1 in 5 adults will struggle with depression at some point in their lives. 1 in 5. That's probably you, me, or someone we know. But here's what makes it even subtle. It doesn't always show up the way movies or textbooks describe it. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. And if we're not paying attention, it can slowly eat away at our joy, our focus, and even our will to keep going. Do you know what shocked me? The same World Health Organization just released data showing that depression affects over 280 million people worldwide. But the problem is compounded by the fact that most of us are walking around with subtle warning signs we're completely ignoring. I used to think depression was obvious. You'd feel sad, right? You'd stay in bed all day? Wrong. After digging deep into recent research and, honestly, some personal discoveries, I realized we've been looking for the wrong signs entirely. Today, we're talking about the 6 warning signs of depression that often get missed, especially in our hyper-connected, always-on world. And trust me, these are signs most people miss because they don't look like what we expect. So, let's break it down. With warning sign number 1, the productivity paradox. Let's start with something that'll probably surprise you. Have you ever noticed how some of the most depressed people you know are also the most productive? I call this the productivity paradox. You're crushing your to-do lists, meal prepping like a boss, color-coding your calendar, but inside, you feel absolutely nothing. Here's what's happening in your brain. When you're dealing with underlying depression, productivity becomes your drug of choice. It's like you're constantly trying to outrun this empty feeling by staying busy. The dopamine hit from checking things off your list temporarily masks what's really going on underneath. A fascinating study from 2022 found that people showing early signs of depression often exhibit something called compensatory hyperproductivity. They're not lazy, they're working overtime to feel normal. But here's the amazing part. This kind of productivity isn't sustainable. It's like running a car on fumes. You might go fast for a while, but eventually you're going to break down. And when you do, it's not pretty. The warning sign? If your productivity feels more like desperation than motivation. If missing one item on your to-do list sends you into a spiral. If you're productive, but never satisfied. That's your brain trying to tell you something. Warning sign number 2. The social media detective. Alright, let's talk about something we all do, but rarely admit. This happens when you're scrolling through social media, but you're not really enjoying it. You're investigating, analyzing and comparing your behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. But here's where it gets weird. Recent research shows that people in the early stages of depression spend 70% more time on social media than usual, but report feeling less connected than ever. You're not scrolling for fun, you're scrolling for evidence that everyone else has it figured out while you're falling behind. I remember doing this myself. At 3 a.m., I was deep in someone's vacation photos from 2019, wondering how they could afford that trip. Or I was staring at a friend's workout video, feeling personally attacked by their dedication. It wasn't entertainment, it was self-torture, with a side of comparison. The algorithm doesn't help either. It feeds you exactly what keeps you engaged, which often means content that triggers your insecurities. You start following accounts that make you feel worse about yourself, not better. What's the warning sign here? If social media feels like research instead of relaxation, if you're constantly taking screenshots to motivate yourself later, but never actually feeling motivated, if you're more interested in other people's lives than your own, there may likely be depression lurking in. That's not inspiration. That's your brain looking for proof that you're not enough. Warning sign number 3. The help-seeking marathon. This one's gonna sting a little. You've got 17 self-help books on your nightstand. You're subscribed to every productivity newsletter, and you can recite meditation techniques like poetry. But you're not actually getting better. You're just getting better at knowing what you should be doing. Here's the thing about depression in the information age. It tricks you into thinking consumption equals action. You're learning about morning routines but not implementing them. Reading about habit formation but not forming habits. Watching videos about mental health while ignoring your own. A 2024 study revealed something mind-blowing. People showing early depression symptoms consume 300% more self-improvement content than average, but report the lowest levels of actual behavioral change. It's like being perpetually hungry but only looking at pictures of food. This creates what researchers call improvement paralysis. You know so much about what you should be doing that actually doing anything feels overwhelming. Plus, every new piece of advice contradicts the last thing you learned, leaving you frozen in analysis mode. The brain does this as a defense mechanism. It keeps you busy learning so you don't have to face the scary work of actually changing. Because change is vulnerable. Learning feels safe. The warning sign? If your browser history looks like a psychology textbook, but your daily routine hasn't changed in months. If you're an expert on everyone else's healing journey, but can't start your own. Warning sign number 4. The emotional anesthesia. Here's where things get really subtle. You're not sad, you're just nothing. It's like someone turned down the volume on your emotions. Good things happen, bad things happen, and you react the same way to both. With a shrug. This is what mental health professionals call emotional blunting, and it's one of the most overlooked signs of depression. Your brain basically hits the mute button on feelings because feeling nothing is better than feeling overwhelmed. You watch a movie that used to make you cry. Nothing. Your friend shares exciting news. You smile and say the right words, but there's no spark inside. Someone cancels plans and you're relieved. Not because you're introverted, but because you don't have to pretend to feel things anymore. The scary part is that this feels like peace at first. You think you're becoming more zen, more detached from drama. But really, you're becoming detached from life itself. Recent neuroscience research shows that when depression is developing, the brain's emotional processing centers start communicating less with each other. It's like your feelings are speaking different languages and can't translate anymore. The warning sign? If you find yourself saying, "I'm fine" a lot, but can't remember the last time you felt genuinely excited about anything. If your emotional range has shrunk to okay and not okay. If you're going through the motions of happiness without actually feeling it. That's not emotional maturity. That's emotional hibernation. Warning sign number 5. The perfectionist's curse. Let me guess. Your Instagram looks flawless. Your workspace is always organized. You never miss deadlines. From the outside, you've got it all together. But inside, you're terrified that one mistake will expose you as the fraud you think you are. This is what I call perfectionist depression. And it's brutal because it hides in plain sight. Society rewards perfectionism, so nobody questions it. But perfectionism isn't about high standards. It's about fear wearing a productive mask. Here's what's happening. Your brain is convinced that being perfect is the only way to be worthy of love and acceptance. That's when you work twice as hard as everyone else, stress about details that don't matter, and beat yourself up over tiny mistakes that nobody else even notices. A groundbreaking study from 2023 found that perfectionist tendencies in young adults are linked to a 43% higher risk of developing major depression within 2 years. The research showed that perfectionism literally rewires your brain to find fault with everything you do. You won't believe the twisted part that follows. The better you get at appearing perfect, the more isolated you become. Because nobody can relate to perfection. So you end up successful, accomplished, and completely alone with your thoughts. The warning sign? If compliments make you uncomfortable because you know the truth about yourself. If you can't celebrate achievements because you immediately focus on what could have been better. If your inner voice sounds more like a harsh critic than a supportive friend. That's not high standards. That's your brain setting you up to fail. Warning sign number 6. The sleep detective. Your sleep patterns are telling a story, and it might not be the one you think. Everyone talks about insomnia as a sign of depression, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. The real clues are much more subtle. Maybe you're sleeping too much. You need 10 hours to feel human, and even then, you wake up exhausted. Or maybe your sleep timing is shifting. You used to be a morning person, but now you can't fall asleep before 2 a.m. Your brain is basically reorganizing its schedule without consulting you. But here's the weirdest part. Your dreams. Research from 2024 shows that people in the early stages of depression experience what scientists call emotional dream inflation. Your dreams become more vivid, more dramatic, more emotionally intense than your waking life. It's like your brain is trying to feel things in sleep that it can't access during the day. You might start having dreams about being chased, losing important things, or being late for something crucial. Not nightmares exactly, but dreams filled with anxiety and urgency that leave you drained when you wake up. Your body is also doing something strange. You might be sleeping for hours, but never hitting deep sleep. Sleep trackers show you're spending most of the night in light sleep phases, which is why you wake up feeling like you never actually rested. The warning sign? If sleep stops being restorative. If you're tired regardless of how much you sleep. If your dreams feel more emotionally intense than your real life. If you find yourself using sleep as an escape rather than genuine rest. Your brain is trying to process emotions in sleep that it's suppressing during the day. The hidden truth. Here's what nobody tells you about depression in the digital age. It doesn't look like the commercials. It doesn't look like someone crying alone in a dark room. It looks like your most successful friend who never takes breaks. It looks like the person with the perfect morning routine who secretly feels empty inside. Depression has evolved. It's learned to hide behind productivity apps and wellness routines. It's masquerading as self-improvement and high achievement. And that makes it incredibly dangerous because nobody, including you, sees it coming. The statistics are staggering. According to recent data, over 1/3 of women and 1 in 5 men will be diagnosed with depression at some point in their lifetime. But those are just the people who recognize it and seek help. How many more are walking around with these subtle warning signs, thinking they just need to try harder? The scariest part? We live in a culture that celebrates these warning signs. We praise the person who works 80-hour weeks. We admire the perfectionist who never makes mistakes. We envy the social media detective who seems to know everything about everyone. We're literally rewarding the very behaviors that signal something's wrong. The path to a lasting solution. At this point you may be asking, what do you do if you're recognizing yourself in these warning signs? First, breathe. Recognition is actually the hardest part, and you've already done that. Second, understand that this isn't about willpower or trying harder. Your brain isn't broken. It's trying to protect you using outdated software. The productivity obsession, the social media analyzing, the perfectionism. These are all coping mechanisms that worked for a while, but aren't serving you anymore. Start small. And I mean ridiculously small. Instead of overhauling your entire life, pick one tiny thing to do differently. Maybe it's putting your phone in another room for 30 minutes. Maybe it's asking yourself, how do I actually feel right now, once a day? Maybe it's permitting yourself to be imperfect at one small thing. The goal isn't to eliminate these patterns overnight. It's to create tiny cracks in the system that let some light in. Most importantly, consider talking to someone. You don't have to do this because there's something wrong with you, but because you deserve to feel things again. You deserve to be productive because you want to be, not because you're running from something. You deserve social media that actually connects you with people instead of making you feel worse about yourself. If this video opened your eyes, you're not alone. Hit that like button if you recognized yourself or someone close to you in any of these signs. It helps more people find this information. And honestly, share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes we can see these patterns in our friends before we see them in ourselves. Remember, seeking help isn't admitting defeat. It's admitting you're human. And being human means you deserve support, understanding, and genuine connection. Not just the performance of having it all together. What warning sign hit closest to home for you? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one, and your story might help someone else realize they're not alone in this. Take care of yourself. Really, you're worth it.